Hello, my name is Chris, and you're listening to Your Career Kit. If you are a people person, then stay tuned to hear from Sergeant Georgia Lennox-Lamb of the RAF's People Specialist Recruitment Team about where your social skills can take you. Come and explore a place where your people skills are valued more highly than your academic qualifications. So if you enjoy helping and supporting other people, then join me now in learning where that could take your career if you join Georgia's team in the RAF. Welcome to the show, Georgia.
Hiya.
So when students generally think about what kind of roles are available in the RAF, I think most would automatically think about pilots, but of course there are loads of other roles available. Today we're going to talk to you about the people specialist role, but before we get into that, let's just find out what it's like to work in the RAF.
So working in the RAF, it's not like any other job that you could go for. It's a lifestyle change, it's a community, and it's an adventure. And it really is what you make of it. The opportunities that the RAF give you, the sport, the travel, the education, it's all there for you to take on. So you can have a really exciting career in the RAF and do all this traveling and all this sport. Or you can have a little bit of a less exciting but still good career where you take the opportunities that you want to take up on.
Okay, fantastic. And so let's get into the people specialist role, because as I say, that's not a role people would commonly associate with RAF. So maybe you could just tell our audience a little bit about, what it is and what it involves.
So it is centered around human resources, but it's so much more than just human resources, which is why we're branded as a people specialist, because there's other things that we do. We do data analysis, business intelligence, and people management and people services. And it is basically what it says on the tin. It's supporting and helping people of the RAF in so many different ways.
Okay, so some of our school-age students, for example, may not be too familiar with terms like human resources, business intelligence. So maybe you could just give us a few examples of some of the day-to-day things that would be done as part of this role.
So typically when you join as a people services, you will begin in core HR, and human resources contains things like performance appraisals, pay, leave, allowances, and every business cannot function without those elements. So typically an organization will have a human resources or administrative department. But beyond that, we can do things like welfare support, service discipline, recruiting, training, business intelligence, VIP personal assistance, or executive support, whatever you want to call that. Yeah, there's so many more things that you can get involved with, accounting, infrastructure, and that's the whole diverse range of roles that you can get into.
Okay, so this would suit someone who who likes kind of, I guess, interacting with other people, but also it sounds like there's some other skills there, things like being really organized, being interested in, I don't know, some of the legal side of employing people potentially, or someone who's happy with admin, interested in logistics and how things work, as well as that kind of enjoying spending time with people. Does that sound about right?
Yeah. We're not looking for any specific characteristics. As long as you enjoy helping people and supporting people, there is the training provided to get you up to the standard that we expect when we're delivering that to customers.
Great. That's always reassuring to know that the training's there to help develop people. That's fantastic. You mentioned welfare support earlier on. What does that look like?
So not many organisations offer a welfare support, but when you join the Royal Air Force, there's an expectation that you are going to be leaving home and leaving your support network, your family and your friends, and joining essentially a new family, a new community. And with that comes the day-to-day struggles of bereavement, divorce, breakups, the ebbs and flows of life. And the RAF do offer a service where you can come in and speak to someone, and we can keep in touch with you and monitor your progress. But on the flip side of that as well, we also have a long-term sick process. So long-term sick is defined by anyone who's off sick for any period longer than 28 days. And we don't abandon those individuals. We keep in touch with them. We support them all the way through the journey, whether that's they go back to work or they're medically discharged out of the Royal Air Force because they can't be there anymore. And that could be from mental illness to disease or a serious injury. And we will keep in touch with them and help them through that process.
Amazing. So the people specialist role, I guess you'd have access to that as an employee of the RAF, but also you would be helping to deliver that to other people. So you play a really important part in just helping to support people in the RAF, whether they're having a great time or they're struggling. Part of your role is to help them out. Well, that sounds really rewarding.
Yes, it's very rewarding.
And I guess along those lines, what is it you enjoy most about the role?
So I'd say that for the role of people specialists, the huge difference is that when you're doing a different role in the RAF, it can be quite repetitive. So if you're doing the same thing but a different location, but as a people specialist, you would have the opportunity to every 3 to 5 years do a different job. So I've done about 6 or 7 jobs throughout my career when I started in 2009, and I've had a different role every single time, which has built me a huge profile. Also the location. So not every role in the RAF has the ability to be assigned to every station in the RAF and overseas. There is administration and there's human resources in every single RAF station. There is something for everyone. And then probably my most favourite thing is the knowledge that you build. So understanding policy, the cans and can'ts, what you can claim for, what you can't claim for. I end up being the go-to person amongst my peers of, oh, I'm allowed to do that, and have you heard of this, and how do I do this? And you just become that knowledge base that everyone goes to. So you really do feel like you're supporting and helping people.
Yeah, that sounds super rewarding. In terms of travel, again, that sounds like a brilliant perk. Do you have much of a say in where you're posted?
Yeah, you do. So the career management who work out of the headquarters at RF High Wycombe, they will give you the opportunity to choose a top 3 preference of location that you want to do, and it's by county. And it is their utmost number 1 priority to make sure that they try and get you the location. Sometimes service need does take place, and that there is a need to fill certain gaps. But for the most part, we will try and get you to where you want to be. And career management is also a people specialist job as well. So we're the ones who get to choose who goes where and when, which is great.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And there's the opportunity to go and be stationed abroad as well, which again, a lot of jobs don't offer. So that's a really great way to see the world.
Yeah, as you kind of climb through the rank structure, more and more opportunities become available to you, and you end up being able to go to embassies all over the world. So it's a really great career to get into, particularly as a people specialist.
Amazing. Okay. And I mean, a lot of people will associate the armed forces with an element of risk, particularly the world at the moment. There's a lot of uncertainty, potential danger. Just to be clear to our audience, this is not a combat role, is it? So you're not being shot at in this role, I'm assuming.
We're all trained to deal with combat situations in hostile environments. That is the baseline of training that we get when we go and do our basic training at RAF Holton in Buckinghamshire. We are trained to defend ourselves, how to handle a weapon, how to maintain it, and how to fire it. So we are able to defend ourselves, but typically on a day-to-day basis, that isn't what we're doing. But we are expected to know how to do that and keep ourselves of a standard throughout our years in service, that we know the training and we're keeping ourselves in a level of fitness that should anything happen or we need to go somewhere where something's happening, that we're ready.
Great. Okay, that's really good to know. But it's not a frontline combat role, but you have that baseline sort of training and need to keep yourself in that level of readiness, which makes a lot of sense. And I guess that's great to know, actually, from a personal security point of view. That's nice to know that you're trained and given the ability to cope in those situations. Again, that's a great skill to develop in life.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the benefits then. You mentioned some of the opportunities are available, but are there any specific benefits of working at the RAF that you'd like to let everyone know about?
So we have subsidised food and accommodation. We have free medical and dental, and free prescriptions. We have a free gym that we can access 24/7. We have a non-contributory pension which we just get that at the end of our service, and the pay is pretty decent. However, if you're looking in comparison to some civilian roles, okay, you're going to get paid a little bit more in another job, but we have more disposable income because of all the free things that we get, the discounts and the subsidised food and accommodation. We have more money in our pockets at the end of the month, so that balances itself out nicely. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point to focus on. A lot of people look at just headline salaries, but you're right. If you look at housing costs in the UK, they're astronomical. So for those students who are thinking about leaving home, then obviously trying to pay rent or look to buy a house is pretty tricky and does eat up a lot of your money. So that subsidised accommodation and food is a huge benefit.
You can't live any cheaper than you can in the military.
Okay. It's great. And I guess if you're looking to save for the longer term, then you've got that pension scheme, which is a really big benefit and much more generous than I think you get anywhere in the private sector probably. And then that ability to save a bit of money every month as well for those who are looking to put some money aside for the future. It's a great opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
And you mentioned training as well earlier on. And again, what are the kind of specifics around this role and the training that you will get?
Everyone who joins the RAF, no matter what role, they will start as an enlisted aviator at RAF Holton in Buckinghamshire, and you'll complete 10 weeks of training, which will consist of general military skills, the knowledge, inspections, how to march, all of those basic things. And then you'll move on to the combat type things like firing a weapon, learning about chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear training, battle first aid, that kind of thing. And then you graduate from there, and then you all go off onto your specialisation training, so phase 2 training, which is of course the role that you've joined up as. So for people specialists, you would go to MOD Worthy Down in Winchester for 8 weeks, and you learn core HR, the software system, and essentially how to communicate effectively with customers. Then you move on to your first job, and that's more training on the job.
Okay, and I guess one of the things that I tend to talk to students about in terms of developing themselves and their skills for the future, one of the biggest skills that is often underrated is communication skills. I don't think a lot of people assume they're good communicators because they can talk, but actually that ability to communicate with different people from different backgrounds, different life experiences in a way that they can understand you is such a critical skill in all walks of life. And if that's part of the training for this role, then that's hugely valuable. Yeah,
the growth that you see in people from when they start in their career to being in for a few years, they really come into themselves and they get really confident, and we all know how to communicate effectively, which is great.
Yeah, phenomenal. And in terms of the steps beyond that, then what kind of career progression can people look at within this role? You said that you've gone through, or you've experienced 6 different roles since you joined. So what does that career progression look like?
Yeah, so you can do what I do, and that's I've stayed as an enlisted aviator and I've worked through the rank structure, and that's what I prefer to do. But other people might do a few years as an enlisted aviator and then choose to do the higher management version of this role, which is a people operations officer. But you don't have to commission into the role that you're already doing. You can actually commission later on and be a logistics officer or a provost officer or an intelligence officer. But the natural progression for this role would be to people operations officer, which is essentially the people who are in charge of me right now. Alternatively, you can use the free education and the further education, the degrees that you can get within the people services within that kind of area, and then you can use the experience that you've built in your career as an enlisted aviator, and then you can leave the RAF and you can go into that world of HR and go out and do that if that's what you wanted to do. Equally, if you didn't want to join the RAF as an enlisted aviator and you wanted to go straight in as an officer, there are education requirements such as A-levels and degrees and things like that you would need to meet. However, if you didn't want to do that and you didn't want to go and do that studying, you can join as an enlisted aviator and then commission later on in your career, which essentially removes the requirement of that education for a direct entrant, if that makes sense.
It does to me, but just so we're clear with the audience. So say someone listening to this is a 16-year-old or 15, maybe not enjoying school that much, think about what their options are afterwards. This role is available from the age of 16, and you're saying is that you come in, you get trained. If you're interested in getting additional qualifications such as a degree, you can actually do that within this role. And then even if you don't necessarily get a degree, you can still get promoted to roles which require higher academic entry requirements if you were going straight into that role. But by joining at kind of 16, you can actually work your way through the ranks and develop your career without
Yeah,
any.
then there's no requirement for you to have those higher education qualifications that we expect if you were joining straight in as an officer. Can come in at the lower end.
That's great. So what requirements are there then? If someone was interested in joining at, say, 16, 17, 18 years old, what requirements would there be?
So there aren't any education requirements at the moment. We don't ask for any qualifications at this time, because when you start the recruitment process, there's a defence aptitude assessment which will assess which roles in the RAF are suitable for you and whether you would be able to achieve the training standards. So there is no need for GCSEs or A levels currently. There's a nationality and residency eligibility requirement that needs to be met, but that's all detailed on the RAF recruitment website.
Okay, so people can head over there to find out more.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so it sounds like there are some really interesting routes into the RAF broadly, but also for this kind of role at different levels. So if someone's at school, leaving school, already got a degree, there are different options to go into this role.
Mm-hmm. And additionally, I will mention as well, the time that you do in the RAF will unlock a pot of money for you. So when it's time for you to leave and you decided that the RAF's not for you anymore, but you've done a certain amount of time that unlocks that money, there is a resettlement package in which we will give you the money to go and do something completely different to transition you back into civilian life. So if you were a people specialist, you've done 5 years, not for me anymore, there is a pot of money there for you to go and be an electrician or a hairdresser or anything that you might want to do that's different. They will pay that for you, and you can transition back into civvy life really nice and easily and have that skill set that you need to get a different career.
Wow, I can't think of any other jobs that offer that. That's pretty special.
Really good.
Okay, so just to recap a little bit. So joining the RAF, there is an assessment when you begin which will help you with roles. So people listening to this and thinking, that sounds interesting. It's all a bit different to me. I haven't done any kind of GCSEs or A levels that relate to people specialism, because of course you can't really. So anyone's nervous about, is this role right for me? Part of the recruitment process is you do an assessment, and that will help. You will look at the skills those people have and help direct them into the most appropriate role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when you join the RAF, when you do your application form, there is an option to select all options or undecided on the role. You don't have to commit to a specific position in the RAF. If you did want to choose people specialist, then you would select that, and then it will take you through to the recruiter, who will invite you to do the defence aptitude assessment. And that is potentially when you could decide what it is that you want to do, because that will give you all of the options that you can do moving forward. Once you've selected the role that you want to do, then you would be invited to do a selection interview. Part 1 being much about you, building a rapport with a recruiter, and then part 2 is what do you understand about the Royal Air Force, NATO, and the units that we have, what's going on in the world, that kind of thing. Then you'll have a medical assessment, which will determine whether you're fit to be in the military. Then a pre-joining fitness test, which has different standards for males and females and age criteria as well. That can be found on the recruitment website as well. Then you'll have a final interview with your recruiter, which is just checking your understanding of the contract, which is a 12-year contract. However, there is a minimum of 3 years to be served. So even though you're signing a 12-year contract, it is a minimum of 3. The RAF are giving you world-class training, which isn't cheap. So we ask for some time back once you've completed training. And then you'll be allocated a space on basic training. So that's the whole recruitment process, of which, if you're not feeling quite right about any of it, your recruiter will help you and give you a better understanding of the role that you've selected. Or if you're not sure on the role you've selected, they will help you decide what it is that you can do.
Wow. So as well as all the training and benefits, you also get a personal recruiter to guide you through
Yes.
the process and help you make a right decision. I mean, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. And then, so if you're in, you decide, say the people specialist role, people who listen to this think that sounds great, I want to do that. From what you're saying is, you can get some great qualifications, including a degree. And you can either stay in that specialism or you can do that for a while. And if you decide you want to change, there's opportunities to branch out into different roles, within those 3 years or those 12 years, however long you choose to stay with the RAF.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly right. It's it's a fantastic job. It's a fantastic career, and there's so many avenues to go down, whether that is commissioning or traveling or sport or adventure training, or really taking up that education and deciding, right, I'm going to build myself this profile and this plethora of education that I've got under my belt, so that when it's time for me to leave, that gives me the best start in a new life. So yeah, it's great.
I'm struggling to think of any other organizations that could offer that breadth of opportunity and sort of, I guess, an interesting and varied career path with all the training to support those changes within the same organization, all the while, continuing to build that pension pot as well. So it's a pretty unique opportunity from what I'm hearing, which is exciting.
Yeah, I think it's fair because, when I left my job at age 19 and I lived in Essex with my mum, and yeah, I joined the RAF, and it's been fantastic from day one. But there's an expectation that I have to move around to different counties, which for some people is great. For me, it was because I met so many new faces and I had different jobs, and it was just really exciting. But it's, asking people to move around and asking them to deploy overseas, as a minimum. I mean, you can have so many more travel opportunities than just deploying because you're told to. You can volunteer for whatever you want, but the expectation to deploy and things like that, the RAF give a lot back to you for that. If you could call it an inconvenience, then they give a lot back to you.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And as you started off by saying, it seems as though there are a huge number of opportunities. So if you go into a career with the RAF with that mindset of how do I make the most of the opportunities available, it seems as though there are incredible potential there.
Yeah, like I said before, you can choose how to run your career. If you want to travel, you can volunteer for adventure training and exercises and deployments. But if you want a bit of a quiet life, then you just do the deployments that you're asked to do, and that's it. If you don't want to do sport and education, you don't have to.
Okay, and in terms of the people you meet, I mean, someone listening to this who's about to leave school or university potentially, wondering what to do next, maybe has a good group of friends, or is looking to make new friends. Just touch on a little bit around the camaraderie and the ability to, I guess, build a group of supportive people around you within the RAF.
Yeah, so I think if studying and education isn't for you, and you feel that maybe you don't want to go to university and you don't want to do A levels, there's a reason that the government allow people to join at 16 in the military, is because we're giving you education and training. You could be that person who's earning 25k plus and all your friends aren't, because they're still in school. But I think it's important to just know that you're not abandoning your old life. You can have the friends that you have in your hometown and the friends that you have in the RAF. And you can make both work. Obviously, there's a little bit of long distance or traveling that you need to do, but we all do it and we all have fun. And you do meet new people, and you do have your own set of friends in the RAF. And I've made friends for life. And it's nothing to be scared about. If you're a bit homesick, it won't last long, because you'll be in that training environment with all these other people that are also in that training environment who've also left home, and you go home on the weekends. It's fine. But what the RAF can give you, that sense of community and family, and the benefits that it offers, it just makes it so much fun.
And for me, I think friendships are based on often shared interests and shared experiences. And it sounds like the RAF, I imagine you make friends quickly because as you go through that training, you're getting put out of your comfort zone, you're being put through new experiences
Yeah.
together as a group, those other people. So automatically you're getting those shared experiences, which is, you know, different to what people are normally doing in a very condensed amount of time. So I imagine those friendship bonds get developed very quickly, more so
Yeah,
than
they
they would
do,
outside.
and you kind of forget that that's actually a very good point. We all have the same attitude towards it, and we all meet new people all the time, so we're just good at making friends because we do that all the time. But yeah, we're all like-minded, and you sometimes forget that because you're in the bubble.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, I guess to kind of finish up then, is there any final advice or other insights you'd like to give students who are considering their options after studying?
just as I said before, if you're not, not sure that education is for you anymore and you want to maybe earn some money, do something a bit different, you know, if you're not enjoying being at home, because that's a thing for some people, come and join the Air Force, because we'll look after you and we'll accommodate you and pay you. It really is. It's a great career. 3 years is not a long time. It does go like that. So if it wasn't for you, you can leave. But it gives you such a good start in life. You learn how to discipline yourself, and you have this discipline ingrained into you, and understanding authority. It just makes you a really well-rounded person. And even if you did just do your 3 years, it's a great opportunity.
And 3 years is the same amount of time, you know, most people spend doing a degree if they choose to go that route. So it's no different, is it, in terms of commitment?
Exactly.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Georgia. It's been an absolute pleasure and really interesting to learn more about the people specialist role, but also life in general within the RAF. So thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you for having me.
We hope you enjoyed listening and picked up some invaluable tips or advice. If you did enjoy, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. If you're looking for student jobs, be it part-time jobs, gap year roles, apprenticeships, internships, placements, or graduate roles, head to e4s.co.uk. See you next time.